So another thing to look at is how flat the land is off in this direction. And the other thing to consider when we're looking at how flat the land is that we don't see any bedrock making up this stream channel. And the nearest bedrock is the bluffs off in the distance that way. And those are made up of the Fox Hills Formation, which is about 70 million years old. But the land is so flat here is because it's the floodplain for the Poudre River. And floodplains are produced during floods when the water reaches bank high, bank full, which is the level of the floodplain here. And once it reaches bank full, if it increases in height anymore, it will then flood the floodplain, which then carries the finest sediment out over the floodplain, which gets deposited there. Because velocities tend to be on the low side, so only the smallest size particles can get carried out there and deposited. And where we're going to go next is take a look at a Meander Scar, which is an abandoned stream channel which was cut off because of this channel migration process. It hasn't fully filled in yet, and so it's a neat little area to look at some additional topographic features you might see on a floodplain. So we're just a little bit west of the Cut Bank Point Bar area we were just looking at, on a little side trail off of the main Poudre Trail. You can see we're on a little bit of a bridge here, or boardwalk, over a low-lying marshy area. And we can see there's cattails in particular marking this. And if we look at the shape of this marshy area, it's a curving strip. Goes off this way and off that way through the floodplain. And what this is a Meander Scar. This used to be the stream channel. But because stream channels migrate because of the meanders with the point bar and cut banks, they can double back on themselves and cut off portions of the channel. And those cut off portions of the channel are called Meander Scars. And if they're filled with water, we can call them oxbow lakes. But usually they fill in with sediment, such as this one has been filled in, not quite all the way yet, as it's still a low area and somewhat marshy. We talked about flood events, that when water level gets higher than bank full, the water will then extend over the floodplain, which is the flat area that's quite extensive all around us here. And those floodwaters carry fine sediment and deposit them in these Meander Scars, so eventually they'll be filled in and thus leaving the floodplain almost topographically featureless or very flat. These floodplains have a lot of significance in that they're a great place to do agriculture. And in fact, just west of here, there's a small working farm with some cows, but there used to be crops grown out here as well. And we can see that in the Greeley region, that there's lots of agriculture, including croplands, in these floodplains around the surrounding rivers. People also like to put their houses on floodplains. Nice and flat, it's a great place to put a lawn. But unfortunately, we know that flooding is something that always is going to happen with any river. And that flooding will flood people's houses out. And then in particular, that happened in 2013. So the floodplains are largely river sediments with finer material deposited on top. And that finer material is so good for growing crops and such. But if we dig through that, we have a really good supply of gravels that we can use for making concrete, making asphalt, other building materials and landscaping materials. So in fact, if you look around the Poudre River and other rivers, is that usually this nice flat floodplain is not preserved, and that it's now a big lake, because what we've done is gone and extracted out all those gravels to use in society. And so not all the floodplains have been removed, but if you look on aerial photos, you'll see that many of them are now man-made lakes, because that's the depression of where we took away the river gravels to use in society. One additional thing to make note of here is that red-winged blackbirds are one species that particularly like these little marshy lands. And Meander Scars are a good place to produce these marshy lands for the cattails to grow and to provide a habitat for them. And so thinking big picture, if you're any scientist interested in the natural world, we have to think about geology setting up kind of the most important characteristics of an environment for biology then to occupy. We'll finish this video up by taking a look at a panorama view of the Poudre River floodplain. This photo mosaic was taken from a vantage point on 95th Ave, looking to the northeast towards the Poudre Learning Center. And what we'll do is we'll zoom in on 3 portions of this image and highlight the important features seen. So first we'll start on the left side of the image and we'll zoom in there, and we can see that off in the distance there's sand and gravel piles produced at an active sand and gravel pit, and that's mining out those river deposits in the floodplain. And in the middle ground you can see there's a pond, and there's actually a number of ponds in this area, and these are former sand and gravel pits that have now been flooded. And then moving to the middle part of the image, we can see in the foreground there's croplands in the floodplain, there's also grazeland, and we can see some cows kind of left center. And then the Poudre River, just for reference, you can see the bridge on 83rd Ave over the Poudre River. And then on the right side of that photo mosaic is the Poudre Learning Center for reference. And then you can see to the right of that, there's a new housing development. And those houses have been built up a little bit higher than the elevation of the floodplain. However, we discussed how floodplains are potentially on a yearly basis the site of flooding. And so it's certainly a concern for this new housing development that it was placed in the floodplain.